kind of funny. I was thinking about telling you my name and maybe my birth date. I could do all the time every time I see you. Hello, Compass nurses and anybody else who sees this. I have to do something for sake of breaking the procrastination hold that it has on me. I had this project in mind, or I had a project in mind since Kimberly was there, and I enjoyed Kimberly a lot, and we kind of hit it off and everything, and one time I came in, she brought me in after doing my vitals and stuff, and I sat on the south wall and was watching all the nurses, and I was paying special attention that day to enjoying and thriving, I guess, in my admiration for nurses, and I was watching people work, and it was about the time I remember hearing Terry talking about to some patients that she loved working with cancer patients because they were the best people. Of course, because they think their life is shorter, so they kind of kick up their sharing of love and their kindness and everything. So no doubt they would be. But so I was sorry, I don't stare at cameras very well, so I'll try. I have my viewfinder turned around for a monitor, so I can see how I look. I apologize sometimes about my hair and everything, but the one thing about talking to oncology nurses is that they have a professional skill at not really thinking less of people because how their hair looks that day. So we're in good shape. So anyway, I was esteeming nurses and thinking about it, and then came home and I tried to make a program because I wanted to talk about love in a certain way, because I think the lesson's valuable, and I've been wanting to do it ever since. So half a year, maybe, possibly, probably not that bad. And I made another try at it, kind of aimed at Heidi, but it's still not good enough. So let me just take about 30 seconds or a minute, just tell you that I passed my 40th year anniversary of being a serious Christian, and immediately upon the beginning of that, we were working to become ministers, and we wanted to be apostolic, actually, which not everybody has apostle in their wheelhouse for thinking about spiritual things or whatever. But basically, apostles are people who are strong enough in doctrine that they establish and not control, but watch for bad doctrine. And I haven't been able to behave apostolically because there's no organization to put me in a position. And when you're not in a position in an organization, you don't really get to teach very much. But I've been personally obsessed with the subject of righteousness and the rights of man since about 2010 for real. I started my Facebook page, facebook.com/a right scepter back 2010. And I've been poor and out of work, and then later on sick, so haven't been that busy. So I use my head all the time to work on reform for ideas that I believe need to be improved in understanding God and also understanding righteousness and interaction between men in general. And I become very much not focused only on Christianity. So this is not a Christian message, but a message for everyone. And I think it's important, and I hope it is. I've talked about the idea with people a little bit and haven't really gotten much for feedback. There's really my family and the close friends who get an occasional chance to hear me talk about ideas that I think are important often get a pretty good sized load, so they don't always feed back, tell me what they think, because they haven't got done thinking about it yet. So, and this is a subject like that. And what I want to talk about is our own view of and measurement of our personal righteousness, my individual righteousness. What do I think of it? And for everyone's sake, not just people who want to be religious or Christians or or think in those kinds of terms, but an actual just man, as part of the world of personal righteousness. We tend to think less of ourselves in that area by miles than we should. And what I believe is important is that I have to be kind of careful, and I also won't take very long because we're 6 minutes already. Is it 5, 6? Many of us know, and most of us who have been in Christian circles will know that in the Gospels it talks about Jesus saying that they came and asked him, and I don't remember for sure, I haven't looked for a while at the verses, but I think it says they came and tried to trap him by asking him questions about Moses, and so they asked, what law should we keep? I don't remember, it may be to be righteous, so I think of it in those kinds of terms, but basically I think they were asking him, what should we do to be righteous? And he said, and he really didn't talk about any laws and wouldn't, I don't think, and said that love your neighbor as yourself. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. And I want to talk about what that love is, because we're taught most of the time in our world, in our society, and in the way they raise people and everything, that love is a personal satisfaction, feelings about things, what you get out of it. That love is measured by how much you feel, and the ideal love, of course, would be being captured by it and having it be in charge because you're so in love with someone that you can't stop yourself, and all those kind of romantic ideas and the songs and the pop culture and everything. But love is not feelings. Love is the measure of the value of its subject. This is really an important reform, and it seems easygoing at first until you really start to apply it, and I really think it's going to be valuable, and I think it will be very valuable to nurses and doctors who deal with people who they're losing, and they lose people a lot of times, and those people will probably in their day-to-day life have to deal with and fight with and struggle about emotions about such things, and about loss, and about caring for people. They probably don't want to get more too attached to someone, because they think that, in any medical situation you're going to get, people are going to be transient to you whether they live or survive or not. But just the idea of thinking about that sometimes nurses probably will think that they don't love people enough because they've had to kind of shut down their feelings about people and be controlled with that, and they don't feel like they feel like they probably, in order to love people like they should, need to feel more about them, and then maybe someone they know will die, and they'll feel bad because they don't feel more about it and everything. But I want you to know that the feelings are secondary, and what I mean by that is that the primary thing about what love is a measure of someone's value. It's a measure of their value as full. Not just a better valuation, but a full valuation. When you love someone, you value them fully. And what I teach about the rights of men concerning that is that when you value them fully, what you're really valuing is their security from being harmed by me. Because you use a tool like this to measure the value of men, including yourself, and you'll see them as equally valued and valuable, and that their security is as valuable as yours is. So just like you don't want to be harmed by someone, you know that they have, it's right for them not to be harmed, and they have that as an individual security that they should have from you. So when you measure them fully, when you measure them as full, a little bit different, then you will not move to diminish them in your view, and therefore you won't move to harm them because you'll esteem their security as well as you do your own. And it's not really something that, it doesn't happen because of feelings at all. I have two branches that I'm trying to decide which one's better to go first on. If I can keep in mind long enough. When I made my video for Kimberly. There's two things about the Kimberly video that I think are interesting. I may still share it, I don't know. But one of them was that I said to her in the video, she never saw it because she was gone. I have no idea where she is, and decided not to kind of pursue that kind of pursue her to get it to her. But what I said there was that you and I see each other a few times, don't really know each other very well. We've spent maybe, I don't know, half an hour to an hour in each other's presence in our lives, maybe 2 hours tops. I probably saw her 3 or 4 times, maybe 5. People I call you Kimberly, you call me Joseph. Almost everybody that knows us and is familiar with us probably calls us Joe and Kim. We don't even know that much about each other. So, but we love each other. And how do we know that we love each other when we don't even really know each other's names all that well? And what it is that I recognize that she values me fully, and she recognizes that I value her fully. And so a thing that happens there is we have then a safe environment to build the rest of the relationship on, to either choose to build relationship on or not. We can either associate and become closer and find more to esteem and value about each other than we knew before, and grow and that kind of thing. But our static, straight, I value you as fully as I value myself, I value you fully, is a stable thing. And I put my arm up like this and get confused. And what I try to say is that I picture this as being the picture that I'm trying to share there is like a carrier wave, like an FM signal, where they've learned to take a radio signal and load information onto it. And therefore the frequency of the radio station would be like a foundational place where you can build and where you can do things, where you can add things to it, and you can always find it because it's always stable. And so your love, your measure for someone is like this kind of foundation where you then would build relationship or build feelings, or any of the things that come in an increased esteem can come because the basic esteem is there. If one of them devalues the other one, diminishes their value in their sight, then love isn't going to be involved. It's going to fall. It's going to not be founded well, and it's not going to be strong and stay. So it's very important to recognize that we can measure people with that value, and they can measure us with that value. And in that simple measurement, before we even relate to each other very much and know anything about each other, before I even know hardly how your name works, I can know that I love you because I measure you that way. It's mechanical, really. And I can also know that she, well, in the case with her, I knew that she loved me too because she valued me. And so talk about your love and your value, or the intercession. So it's not too bad. Let me try and take a couple minutes to describe this to you. Not everybody will understand what I mean when I say priesthood, because they'll think in terms of priests wearing fancy outfits or whatever, but it's not what I mean. Priesthood has been a focus for me, and I've shown myself to be talented with it in my understanding of things that people consider to be Christian priesthood. I was really good at, and people would have expected a leadership role for me, although leadership roles aren't really what I do, and there's reasons, but that's not the subject. Priesthood to me is when... Do I have a picture of it here? I kind of do. I better not. That's too ugly. It's messed up. If you picture the full value of every man, and you think of all their heads here, thousands or whatever of them. Oh man, I distracted myself and lost track. Where was I? And when someone gets harmed, either they're guilty for harming someone and they get condemned for it, or something happens and their fullness of their health and their well-being gets diminished somehow, then they're no longer up here where they should be. And redemption and love and caring for people is really oriented toward helping to bring them back up to the fullness of their well-being. And that's what Christianity is supposed to be. That's what redemption is supposed to be, that when people have guilt and problems, then not only will you bring them back up to their full level by refilling them Condemnation is a loss of value. So the reverse of that is to revalue them, fill them back up with value, have people value them again, and have the things that reduce their value removed. But the value of their health is that way. And priesthood is to me about the actions and the work and the love to bring people back to full when they've been harmed. And I believe that it works for everyone and isn't the purview or the monopoly of any one organization. It's not an organization thing at all. It's individual men who love someone and will restore them. And I find that to be perfect love and to be priesthood. And so when I say priesthood and I bring it up to nurses, what I'm getting ready to try and tell you is that I measure that and value that as priesthood when I'm here and something comes to try and kill me, and you will, out of love and measure and esteem for my value, will move yourself in between us, and you will turn your back to me almost in a sense and go after the things that try to harm me. So you're coming in and you're interceding between a harmer and a victim, just like any other law, restoring of right kind of priesthood would be. Judges would do that, and nurses do that too. It's just a different kind of enemy. So you work all of the time in your lives to stand between someone who is being pretty much murdered by some kind of organism or whatever, and you intercede for them, and I find that to be perfect priesthood. And also, as a righteousness expert in what I would say maybe the best one that's ever lived, if you're interested to see if I can prove that out, I'll be glad to talk to you for hours until you're like, whoa, I think he's right. He might be the best of this ever. And I really am pretty good at it. So when I say that someone is righteous, I do it because I'm contrary to their condemnation. But what I want you to understand in your relationships and in your lives yourselves, no matter what your religious things are, no matter what you know about God, no matter how no matter how you perform in such things, what you do perform is that you demonstrate love and you demonstrate intercession to intercede between victims and their harmers, and it's perfect righteousness. And you're busy doing that all the time, manifesting love and righteousness. So loving your neighbor as yourself, valuing them as your equal, valuing them like you would if you had cancer and you were sitting in that chair, you value them like you would expect to be valued there, and it would be right for you to be valued. So you do that. You love your neighbor as yourself, and that's righteousness. And it's also perfect priesthood. So when people think less of themselves and they don't, I mentioned earlier about what do you think about your love, don't think that your love is short because you can't generate feelings enough to meet the mythical idea that you can feel enough. You can't feel enough for all of your neighbors to have feelings for everyone. It'll be crazy for Jesus to tell people you feel feelings for everyone so you don't hurt them, so you'll be righteous. Well, feelings aren't going to hold up because feelings are transient. But what will hold up is your measure of their value, and you're placing yourself into demonstrating that value is how you value them. So it's a righteousness thing. And I want nurses and doctors and people who are in those kinds of positions to know better than to think, to measure how well you're doing, how righteous you are is how I would put it, because I'm focused on righteousness, but how well you're doing and how well you love. Don't let your estimations of how much you feel about it affect what you think about your love, because you come to work every day and you spend your whole life putting yourself between people, victims and their harmers, and that's perfect love. So understand that your righteousness and love are full. And unless you have something, unless you leave work being kind to everybody and go around hurting people and everything outside of work, then chances of your righteousness is... Oh, thank you. I was hoping that we'd get to the mail today. Cool.
Aren't you waiting for the card from...
Yeah, this is a card from Ron. Hey, thank you, David. Oh, David brought me the mail. Should have made you look at my son. He's one of the finest men I've ever known, actually. Who are you to judge that? Well, I told you I've been practicing for 15 years. I've been obsessed with righteousness. So, okay, so there was one thing that's hanging on. I'll give it a couple seconds. If I don't find it, I'll stop. There was another thing. Well, I guess don't worry about your righteousness. If you don't have, what I was saying was, if no one's saying right now to a judge, hey, that he's hurt me and I need a judge, then you shouldn't expect to need to be judged. You shouldn't expect that you're unrighteous because people believe in rules that are supposed to be able to tell you what to do, and then maybe you didn't do all the rules or whatever. None of that matters. What matters is that you love your neighbor as yourself and you don't harm them. And if you're harmless, then you're righteous. So esteem your righteousness. You don't have to turn away and say, don't care about God anymore because I don't need him because now I'm righteous. But whatever your religious or spiritual or however successful you are, or whatever those things are to you, those aren't the thing that decide whether your righteousness is sound in your place in the relating to all other men, to your neighbors. It's sound and well taken care of if you love them. Guess all I really didn't do is talk about how much I'm in love with nurses, because I've added to that. I've added to this foundation an awful lot of esteem about you guys, because I really you just amaze me all the time. And then I'm gonna miss Terry. So who I remember is there now, Heidi and Jessica. It's my daughter-in-law's name, but for some reason I always want to call her something different. But Jessica and that's not right. That's the wrong name. It's close. Oh, the girl with the Russian name. Anyway, I love you guys, and I appreciate you. I kind of wanted, earlier in the month, I thought I would do this for a Christmas card, but now it's the 23rd, so the chances that, if I'm really in love with what I've done here, and I think it's worth it, that I may come over and mention it to you, and tell you that I shared it someplace where you could find it. But I may do it on video, too, and just bring it and give it to Heidi for a late Christmas present or whatever. You see, people don't tell me whether this message is amazing and impactful yet, but then I guess if I tell people enough times, someone will eventually tell me that I'm not just imagining that it's a valuable thing. I think it's valuable to not think less of your righteousness and your own personal love, because you can't maintain a natural and impossible amount of feelings for people. So you don't have to put your feelings at risk, and you don't have to measure things by your feelings, because you measure the value of those people as full. And the reason that you're hurting and wonder about your love when you lose them, or when you're considering them, it's even based in that you love them and you're esteeming them, and you want it to be full. So what could be better? You save people's lives and you show you value them all the time, and this is the best that men can do. And it's the best that beautiful women can do too. No offense, Randy. I haven't seen Randy for a while either. And Elle. People are pretty highly valued by me, so I miss them. So anyway, I didn't think of the little hanger on. Maybe if I do share this someplace in a comment, I'll mention the idea that I thought was still to fit in there, but I didn't keep up with it. So now 23 and 24 minutes. Love you guys. I think the world of you.